Okay, so welcome back. Let's now discuss what is a typical format for a fictional book as well as a non-fictional book. All right. Now, the orange bloated up oval figure that you see on the left, right? That is pretty much a format what a non-fiction book should have. Okay, it goes as follows. Once you have your chapters written out, or simply put the topics that you want to cover, right? You start your chapter, that is, and I go inside, right? You have an index, and once you go inside, you typically will start with the chapter headline. You will fall into a quote, right? Non-fictional books typically, as what I see and I perceive, comes about with a good quote, which makes somebody who reads such books to understand what is coming their way through the quotation itself, right? And you can give credit to the person who had quoted that particular quote. Okay. Uh, the best thing is to start with a relevant question, right? Uh, for the non-fictional topic that you've written. So the question could bring about a problem that exists out there. And when that problem is perceived and described through in the format that you write, the next element that comes about is your answer. And the answer should typically consist of a cause, effect, and solution. All right. So, uh, and I'll give you an example in a minute. That answer that you give with a cause, effect, and solution should cover the history where the solution came from, what does the future hold for that solution, and presently what all has it encompassed. Okay, so that will give you the larger topic. So because people who are reading such non-fictional books are typically have too many questions in their mind and hence looking for a book to find an answer for. Okay, and if the question resonates with the questions that people have in their mind, then that book should typically give them the answers in the format shown. Okay, as a topic. So that becomes your relevant audience, the persona of the audience that you want to tap into. A typical example, can I give you my example? Is during the pandemic times, we realized that, or at least I realized that people are going through so much trauma, right? Because of the changes around them and so many issues. The larger problem was how to deal with it. Okay, that was the larger, if you see the question. So, so every time when there is so much of negativity, so much of chaos, with so uncertainty and hopelessness and so on and so forth, typically you pose the right kind of questions. That why is it? Why is this problem caused? Okay, that means why are emotions running high? Now, the question was why the emotions, rising because of the environment around you. So then you give an answer, right? The emotions are caused because of hopelessness, because they don't have a certain future. I'm just giving an examples here, right? So the cause is they don't see a clear future, right? The effect of which is they're causing inbuilt depression or and resulting into various other diseases. What is the solution? Is to shake themselves up. By how do we do this? They use certain techniques, right? Called maybe meditation, maybe yoga, etc., and stop getting the negative thoughts into play. So how do you do that? There is a whole methodical approach to do that. How your thoughts can be controlled and so on and so forth. So cause, effect, and solution. Then history. How does it start? Right now, if you see various places, various countries, various issues, everything keeps on changing around you. Now, because of those changes, people don't find consistency. They don't find consistency, so they get a little hopeless on the future. So the current pandemic did the same thing. As per history goes, they saw things starting from somewhere, suddenly bloating out of promotion, and then they saw that chaos around them did not justify anything because now they were locked. Sometimes they had food issues, sometimes some dear one dying, and this and the other, right? So, a series of activities result into an history. Then, once done that, everybody was in a depressive or a pandemic mode, if you will. So, how in the previous times people have conceived it and come out of it? So that history was put into play and given some examples of how the stories worked out well. right? And the people with the right emotions worked in the right way through. Then you give them the future. Now, to look in the future, you typically would want to let them know that the one of the causes, if you see scientifically, is whether emotions go dry, right? Because the vibrations come down of human being, and where the vibrations come from, then you use the scientific progress of how Einstein thought of something, how Tesla thought of something, and how all of us are connected, and so on and so forth. And from that point of view, right, if you use the right methodologies just to up your frequency and your vibrations, your emotions rise up accordingly to the best of the levels. Meditation and yoga, etc., could be of help at that point, right? Because spirituality does help. Okay, and there are typical ways of doing this. So once you do that, right, the future already becomes bright, because future resides on three things: again, your environment, your relationships, and your career. Okay, so with that said, if your emotions are right, you will create the right people around you and have the right relationships, because of which your work-life balance will improve. So your work-related career aspects come into play. You have more areas to focus on. And when you do these two things, your ecosystems, that means the community that you live in, or the places that you visit, or the friends that you have, or the relatives that you come across and close by, that comes to it. So you understand there's a whole book narration that comes into play with this, the simple way of question and answers. Right? That's how you conceive your books. Then there are stories that you add at any point of time to let them know what happened with one of the famous figures and what resulted into an outcome, which you added as your answer. And then the learnings from there, and then you summarize it. So that completes a chapter, or maybe a couple of chapters, and so on and so forth, depending on the topic that you choose. Okay, so I hope this gives you clarity how to narrate a book through, and you use the right language, etc. And mind you, there are enough, again, utility programs like Grammarly, etc., which will correct your punctuation, or they will correct your spellings automatically, right? And again, we can see this how we do this on a practical basis. And if you think that you have the concept but you are not, cannot write the concept, etc., there are ghost writers and there are editors out there, etc., out there in Fiverr, which you can choose and run with. Okay, there's there's Upwork and all those guys also, right? It is the other platforms which provide these services. But I found Fiverr as one of the best ones. Hence, I've been recommending them repeatedly. So you understand. So you, even if you have never written a book, you can start writing a book. It is now the systems and availabilities allow you to do that, and that brings up one of your digital assets for the future as well. And with time, you will only improve. Okay, we'll go through a copy writing kind of a small course also, which you'll understand that better, so that that's a beginning of writing such kind of books. Okay? And then you can get to the level. But using this format, you can start today. Okay, and I'm telling you, can really, anybody who's not writing can start writing today. There's enough available out there to start publishing. Got it? In fact, there's an example of some of our Indian folks who barely, have been from a non-English medium school, have written bestsellers and probably rating some top 10 or 20 in the whole Amazon marketplace globally, right? So all the books are doing so very well. So why not anybody else out there, right? Who wants to write books? Okay, so we'll touch on those topics at the right time. Okay. All right. So for fiction, right? Fiction, as I told you, is an open topic, but typical structure is character introduction, scenario creation, main character. You put circumstances in place, you put a plot in place, and then you create a suspense around certain of the figures, in case your book is of that sort. And then you solve a mystery, and then you conclude it. Okay. Now, I made it sound very easy, right? Typically, writing a fiction novel, you require a little bit of storytelling skills, okay, and the language that you use, and the creation of scenarios that you do. I am not a fictional writer. I don't read so many fictional books at all. Okay, I am a hardcore non-fictional guy with a little spirituality bent. So, hence, you see the difference. I could take you through in details of non-fiction, but fiction is anybody's. Whoever thinks can write better, can probably take that structure, because these are structures that typically discuss amongst our author friends. Okay, with that, let's go to the next topic. And okay, so the next topic basically is you downloading a template for a non-fictional book. You select your subject. We did the research around finding a topic, design this, doing the design thinking activity, detailing the research through, right? Use those elements and take the format what I talked about. The non, if you're a non-fictional writer and you want to write non-fiction, and then start filling the blanks. I'm telling you, you will in no time have at least a 20,000 word book, or at least not say 10,000 word book, good and ready to publish. All right, and I'll talk about the the fonts to be used, etc. Because the template itself is good enough for you. It already has styles, it already has everything, right? You have to just start clicking on them after choosing your text. And we'll use this in the once you dirty your hands with this, we'll do this in the practical session so that you understand how each thing works, and you're good to go to publish it. So in our practical session, we will write a small book in front of you, right? Of course, we write pages, not a book, but small pages that you see how the styles work and so on and so forth. We will use that and try and publish it onto KDP, okay? And once there, you will understand what are the steps taken to do that. And once we do that, I will talk about how the promotions work, okay? And then give you a format for template of filling up such promotional activities, okay? And how a time plan works, during what time you should do what. Okay, so that is for ebook publishing, and I think this is good enough up till now. We will I will meet you in the next one where the research is taken to a deeper level with right kind of templates, which will also help you in your courses, in your ebooks or your published books, and also in your future endeavors for building other assets. Okay, I'll see you there.